Jennifer Hills, a novelist from New York, traveled to Louisiana, where she rented a remote cabin to work on her next book. She first visited Earl, the man who rented her the cabin, and went back on her way after Earl gave her a map. Realizing that she was lost, she stopped over at a gas station and filled up her gas tank as she asked Johnny, a gas station attendant, for directions. Johnny gave Jennifer the directions and tried to show off to her, only to embarrass himself when he tripped on a bucket. Johnny's friends, Andy and Stanley, made fun of Johnny while Jennifer apologized to him. Even though Johnny said that it was fine, the tone of his voice hinted that his ego was bruised. Feeling awkward, Jennifer didn't even bother to get her change as she immediately left. Jennifer reached the cabin, and the first thing she did was open a bottle of wine before she started preparing to work on her next book. After working, Jennifer was relaxing on a sun lounger by the lake with a glass of wine when she heard a rustle coming from the forest. Jennifer looked on, trying to find where the sound came from, and was relieved when she heard the squawks of the crows. Later that night, she was on a phone call with a friend when she heard noises coming from the storeroom. She went to check what the noise was but saw nothing. Jennifer was weirded out but decided to go back to the rocking chair she was sitting on in the veranda, only to spill wine on herself. She took off her clothes and washed them in the kitchen, unaware that she was being recorded. The next morning, she was jogging when she came across an abandoned cabin. She checked inside the abandoned cabin before going back to her rented cabin. She turned on the faucet and saw dirty water coming out of it. She noticed the same thing in the toilet bowl and also realized that the toilet wasn't flushing, so she called a plumber. Right after her phone call with the plumber, her phone fell into the toilet and she rushed to get it. Later on, the problem was fixed by Matthew, a plumber with an intellectual disability, and Jennifer abruptly kissed him as a sign of gratitude. A flustered Matthew left and met up with the gas station attendants. Matthew told them that Jennifer kissed him, and Johnny didn't like what he heard. Then Stanley showed them a video of a half-naked Jennifer washing her clothes. Johnny, whose ego was still bruised because of what happened in the gas station, claimed that Jennifer deliberately teased him just to humiliate him and promised to show Matthew how to get a girl. That night, Jennifer was having a hard time working because she was frustrated by her broken phone. She went to grab a glass of water, but a sudden knock startled her, and she accidentally dropped the glass. When she opened the door, Jennifer saw that it was a dead bird. Then she noticed that the storeroom's door was open and went to lock it. When she got back inside the cabin, she saw pictures of the gas attendants on her laptop. That's when the three men came in, followed by a scared Matthew. Stanley was recording as Johnny and Andy messed around with a terrified Jennifer. Johnny pinned Jennifer by the staircase and pulled on her teeth, threatening to pull them out. Then she made Jennifer suck his handgun. Andy did the same thing, but with a bottle, which Jennifer used to hit Andy with. She sprayed Stanley with pepper spray before running away, bumping into Earl and a sheriff named Storch. Storch told Earl to go back to his shop while he accompanied Jennifer to the cabin with a promise of arresting her attackers. But when Storch saw the bottles of alcohol and marijuana cigarettes, he passed the blame on Jennifer and pinned her against the window. Jennifer realized that she asked for help from the wrong person when her attackers arrived, and Storch began hitting Jennifer around. Stanley was still recording as Johnny undressed Jennifer and pinned her down to let Matthew violate her. When Matthew was done with her, the other men focused on him, giving Jennifer enough time to get out of the cabin. A bottomless Jennifer walked through the forest on her way to escape, which turned out to be futile when she was found by the men again. Storch made her lay down on her stomach and dumped her head into a puddle of water. Once he was done, all 5 men took turns violating her, leaving her weak and naked. A dazed Jennifer stood up and walked away, with the men snickering as they followed her. Upon reaching a bridge, Jennifer let herself fall into the water beneath the bridge before any of the men could even stop her, and she disappeared. Storch ordered the other four to look for her in the swamps, but they couldn't find her anymore. Seeing Stanley's camera, Storch grabbed the card and stomped on it, berating Stanley for recording and creating evidence of their crime. Storch went to tell Earl that Jennifer had left after he found drugs in the cabin, while the other four destroyed all evidence that could be used against them. While the other four went back to their daily lives as if nothing had happened, Matthew was haunted by the memories of what he had done to Jennifer. One night, Earl called Storch after receiving a call from Barbara, Jennifer's friend, who had been looking for Jennifer as she had been missing for over a month. Meanwhile, Stanley worriedly told Johnny and Andy that he had lost the tape containing everything they did to Jennifer. Unbeknownst to the five men, Jennifer never left the area. She had stayed, watching them and carefully planning her revenge on them. After a month of disappearance, she started making a move. She began by sending the tape to Storch, who met up with the gas attendants and angrily told them to look for Matthew, who hadn't been showing up. Meanwhile, Matthew had been hanging around the cabin when he heard someone calling him from inside. He ran up the stairs but quickly went back down when he heard the voice coming from downstairs. This caused him to slip and fall unconscious. When he woke up, he was already in the abandoned cabin, with Jennifer sitting on the couch watching him. Seeing her, Matthew profusely apologized and sat beside her, crying. Using his disability to her advantage, Jennifer assured Matthew that she wasn't mad at him and made him lay on her lap with the promise of comforting him. Only when he was fully lying down did she wrap a ropey around his neck and drag him somewhere. The next day, she targeted both Andy and Stanley, who were searching for Matthew in the forest. When they heard the sound of a harmonica playing, they followed where the sound was coming from and saw the abandoned cabin. Andy went inside the cabin while Stanley continued looking for Matthew outside. That's when Stanley saw Jennifer, but before he could get to her, his leg got caught by a bear trap, disabling him from moving. He called Andy for help, and the latter quickly ran outside to see what happened. With his focus on Stanley, Andy didn't notice Jennifer behind him and was rendered unconscious when Jennifer hit him with a bat on the head. Jennifer did the same with Stanley, and when both men woke up, they were already tied. Stanley's leg was tied by the tree, and the skin around his eyes was being pulled by a string that Jennifer attached to the tree. Jennifer used fish guts to attract the crow's attention and went back inside the cabin, leaving Stanley to become bird food. Andy, on the other hand, was tied above a tub filled with dirty water. Jennifer poured lye in the water and pulled the wood supporting Andy's upper body, leaving him alone to try and save himself from being burned by the lye. Jennifer's next victim was Johnny. She wore a revealing outfit and went to the gas station, pretending to be just another sexy girl waiting for assistance. Seeing her backside, Johnny was obviously excited as he approached her, but that excitement quickly left his body when Jennifer turned around and knocked him out. When he gained consciousness, he was already naked and tied up, her bloody mouth staying open because of the gag. Jennifer pulled on the rope behind Johnny's head and used pliers to pull his teeth out one by one, stopping only when he started pissing himself. Pulling out the gun she got from Johnny, Jennifer pushed the tip of the gun into Johnny's mouth and kept on pushing until Johnny started gagging. Then Jennifer pulled out garden shears and emasculated Johnny before making him eat his own little Johnny. Johnny spit his little friend out and screamed until he eventually died of blood loss. Meanwhile, Storch had called Earl to invite him to shoot down birds. The two of them went to the forest, where Storch gave Earl a small gift to make the latter happy before he shot him. After killing his friend, Storch left the forest, and on his way back home, he received a call from his daughter, who informed him that they were visited by her new teacher. Storch's daughter, Chastity, passed the phone to Jennifer, who introduced herself to Storch. Hearing her name, Storch rushed back home only to find out that Jennifer had left with their daughter with the excuse of wanting to get to know her students. A worried Storch immediately went to the playground to look for his daughter and Jennifer. but couldn't find them anywhere. So he went back to his car to look in another place, not realizing that Jennifer was already inside his police car. He lost consciousness when Jennifer hit him, and when he woke up, he was already tied. His upper body was lying on the table and his pants were down, leaving his buttocks vulnerable to the gun pointed at his behind. Jennifer then slammed the shotgun inside him, all the while telling him to imagine the same thing happening to his daughter. Once she was done, Jennifer wrapped a string around the trigger and walked towards the other end of the room, approaching the clock. She pulled the cloth, revealing an unconscious Matthew, who was sitting on a chair right in front of the sheriff. Jennifer then tied the other end of the string around Matthew's wrist. Jennifer stated that Matthew was waking up soon, and when that happened, he would move, which would trigger the shotgun, which was still inside Storch. Storch begged Jennifer to forgive him and let him go, but Jennifer didn't listen as she sat outside, waiting for the inevitable to happen. Matthew soon woke up and was confused to see the sheriff in front of him. Storch tried to tell Matthew not to move, but the stuttering plumber didn't listen and tried to stand up, pulling on the string. The shotgun was triggered, and both Storch and Matthew were killed in an instant. The ending scene showed Jennifer staring into nothing, her lips forming a small smile.